I am curious. I got to ask you though. So like, basket weavers, are you focusing on just use hiking, for example, on hiking? And then if a political conversation comes up, do you fan it to continue the conversation, or do you want it to remain peaceful? It's how do you navigate that?
So essentially, we're a distinctly apolitical organization. I mean, officially apolitical,
right?
And the reason for that is specific. I mean, we don't want people to look at basket weavers and go, oh, they're that group who set up a special interest group to lobby this particular politician over this particular issue. That's not what we're about.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's about stepping over politics and thinking about the values and virtues. I mean, I personally would subscribe to things like you've got your honesty and your integrity, you've got your understanding and your compassion.
Yeah.
And then you've got the kind of the proactive side as well, which is sort of wanting to build people up.
Yeah.
So I'd look to our members to have conversations that they're interested in. If they want to sit and talk for 3 hours about Warhammer because that's their particular topic of discussion, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But they are all generally connected just because of the people we're drawing them from by an interest generally in our particular political persuasion. And we would hope that by promoting the idea of like hunting for truth, for instance, and that, if you've got someone who is talking about something that's going on in their lives, I've decided to get the vaccine for this reason, and my mother isn't getting the vaccine for whatever other reason, and you've got other people there to talk with you about that issue, and like maybe say, well, here's all our evidence, which is particularly sort of negative on the vaccine. There are these benefits if you're really vulnerable and that sort of thing. You should really consider this and make the decision for yourself.
Yeah.
These kinds of conversations are, and this kind of thrust and parry of talking about ideas with people around you is so much more enriching and so much more rewarding when it's done in person.
True.
Than when it's done, as I say, like you can rant all day at like the wall of Twitter activists and get nothing back, and you'll never convince anyone, and you'll also never be convinced yourself. I mean, people kind of forget this side of things, which is that you just become, once you're being constantly barraged with harassment or called just another stupid Trump voter or whatever it happens to be, or a bot, that's also one of the accusations these days.
Yep.
Then like you're never going to have your mind changed, and there is reasonable critique from a variety of perspectives of various different issues that needs to be accounted for, and you've also got what I would call the rational left, if you want to call it that, which are people who
that exist.
Sorry,
I said that exists. The rational left.
Yeah. People who are entrenched in a lot of left-leaning ideas, but also have like really key insights into particular issues from perspectives which the right hasn't considered it from. And it's important to consider how we would counter a particular narrative, because, as you say, the left is winning consistently on morality, and we need to like the moral stance. I mean by that, rather than morality itself. And we need an effective counter to that, which is, I think, promoting our own morality and then acting as ambassadors for it. So you will naturally draw people to you because they'll go, I mean, your life seems to be going really well. Like you've got lots of friends, like you're getting out there, you're building these different skills together.
Right.
You seem to have a full calendar. You've got a good relationship with your family. Or if you haven't got a good relationship with your family, you've got like enough of a friends network to support you despite that. And things seem to be going really, really well for you. I bring in the kind of example of my father, who was a real proponent. I mean, he's a very, very strong Christian. And he would just get comments from people because he was just a very virtuous man. Okay. And people would just notice this about him. They go, that what do you do differently about your way of being? And I think in a world, we talked a little bit, we brushed on the mental health crisis that's kind of infected the whole of the West at the moment. But there are going to be people out there who go like, I'm so miserable. I don't know why. Like, I feel like this compulsion to booze and abuse like different things. I'm constantly binging Netflix. None of my relationships seem to be working.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing wrong? And then you look and you see someone like that who's just is a friendly face. Because that's the thing. Like, I encourage people to be friendly about it, not to be condescending.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, well, you can't. I'm not saying that everyone's going to be like that, but
Sure.
if you've got someone who's just like, you should be there, recognize people are on a journey, and say like, look, why don't you just come along and do this and listen to us and see if this friend group is for you?
Yeah, empathy goes a long way.
We all go to the cinema every third week of the month. You know, I want to get to the point where people are blocking off, you know, a particular week in a month or multiple to say that's the time I've set aside for weaving. You know, that's what we call it. And then of course we have to kind of aid this in the Basket Weavers group. We have the weaving report. So if you've met together and you've done a weave, then you can write in what that was about and sort of what fun you had and suggest ideas to other people. And people can be encouraged by this kind of long list of successful group meetings.
Yeah.
And get an idea for the groups, because we have in the UK, for instance, we've got a very active London group. We've got an active group in South Wales, in Cardiff. And so one of the things that we're planning to do is do a walk of Hadrian's Wall sometime next year, for instance, like
Cool.
all together. Like at the moment, that's only about sort of 20 people, but there's 20 people more than we would have had otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
So
it makes me think of that viral video of that. It was this guy who, you know, he was just sitting there on a river bank or something with, he said it was his best friend. And he's like, you know, I just want more friends. And, you know, me and my friend here, the other guy didn't say anything, but he's like, you know, feel free to come hang out with us. You know, we're cool guys. And like half the internet was making fun of him, but then the other half was like, awesome. Like, you know, he's being honest and raw online, like exposing himself, but like that authenticity is beautiful. And like, I don't know, a week or two later, he posted another video and it's like, so I had a meetup, and then he shows behind him on the camera and there's like 20 people. Wow. And he's like, people showed up, and it's like, that's what we need more of. We need more of that kind of like going off and kind of, you know, exposing yourself to it in an extent to find a community right within your area. And I think we haven't really discussed mental health at a lot specifically, but because I feel like a lot of what we were talking about really, you know, it is the underlying problem is mental health. Like if you don't have a good community, if you don't have someone that you can talk to, someone that's there for you, you know, you feel alone, you feel lost, then of course, then you're lost in your thoughts. And I think there was a statistic I read that it's like 65% of depression is caused by thinking too much. And when you're by yourself, when you don't have someone there to like get you out of your thoughts, you're thinking too much. You're getting lost in your own thoughts.
Here's one that will mess you up. Eating disorders are primarily a Western phenomenon, right?
Okay.
And the prevailing kind of narrative on why this is typically, I mean, I'm sure you've heard it, like the media loves to scream about how the media is doing this. You know, we promote unhealthy body standards, and this is what's rubbish. It's a mixture of free time and access to mirrors, right? The
really?
Third world does
free
not
time
have
and access to mirrors. Okay, continue, please.
Right?
Huh.
You're constantly surrounded by reflective surfaces, especially if you live in a city where everything's made of glass and steel. And you're being bombarded with ads, you know, and seeing these like superstars that have like shredded bodies and, you know, there's the Photoshop issue. There's the Photoshop issue. But you'll notice that there are these kind of figures in the third world, but they don't like have nearly the clout essentially in that kind of headspace as they do in the West. And that you know, you're just not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting caught in your own head, like too much introspection, will inevitably lead to kind of self-deprecation and self-destruction if you're not too careful with it.
Yeah.
I look at it as like we have, in terms of the mental health crisis, as having sort of two types of people. You know, you've got those people who've completely disengaged from everything, from the systems of governments on every level. These are people who get on with their daily lives, and they're not doing it because they're ignorant, but they're kind of willfully blind to the changes being made. They make it out of necessity, whether it's fear, in fact, just because it's the path of least resistance. But these people are thinking, my vote means nothing. Why should I vote? My actions mean nothing. Why should I take action? I better put on Netflix. I'm going to tune out. I'm miserable. I can't really quantify why. But, you know, like I'm still a slave to this abstracted world, you know. And then on the other side, you've got the politically engaged who are really frustrated because the political climate serves like no local issues anymore. They're obsessed over these international or global crises that they're struggling to relate to, or like particularly like irrespective of the truth of the matter on climate change, right? It threatens such far-reaching consequences that the people who are obsessing over this are kept in a constant stress state. You know, they're wondering who's going to be the next target of this, or of the system, or whatever it happens to be. And these people go, oh, maybe there's no solution. Maybe I'm just going to have to wait for the revolution to happen and see if I survive. Maybe I'm going to be part of that revolution. My actions mean nothing, but and if I do take action, I'm going to be persecuted for it. If I'm going to vote, it's the same party with the two faces. So why am I voting? I can list a dozen reasons why I'm miserable, but like I don't know what to do. And it's a battle which I think no one should undertake alone. I think that building communities, local communities, which, as I say, like the purpose is to get you away from this stuff, right? To get you thinking local, to get you thinking not like, oh, what am I going to moan about that's going on? Like for me in the UK, like, oh, I don't, you know, what's going on in California? Like, oh, those tech giants. I want to be going, well, like I'm going bowling with my mates at the weekend. I'm going to the gym and I'm meeting my friends there. I've got a class. I'm going into work and I'm working with people who I met at my, you know, local basket weavers who like I then brought to the company, or the company, you know, I met through the company. And that, you know, you build yourself into a block, because at the end of the day, I think thinking in this local way as well then establishes you as well as a block, because as we know, politicians, I mean, with the exception of your country, because I'm afraid it's completely screwed.
Hey, maybe not completely. There's still good Americans out there.
I'm joking, chaps. I'm joking. But you know, the politicians play to blocks of people as well, with particular interests. And
that's what you mean. Okay.
If all of a sudden, you know, you become a voting block, then suddenly you are actually of interest. And I do think that there's enough of a kind of hunger in people. There's enough of a desire for this, especially when they, you know, they come along. I haven't met anyone who's come along to a weave and gone, do you know what, this was absolutely miserable. I've had people who come along and say, you know, this wasn't exactly my thing. It was great to meet you all, but like next time, let's do this. And then we go and do that, you know?
So do you guys have a American chapter? Some, you know, groups out here?
Absolutely. We have, if I just going to try and find.
I see you have the America over here. So
we have a map, actually. Let me post it in the private chat. Okay.
I can actually see it here. It's you got it in the center.
Yeah.
So you got one in Florida. Yeah. All right. You got it all over the place. That's pretty cool. So
we reckon we have around at least 1,000 members, I think.
Wow.
At the moment.
Look, Australia, South Africa.
Yeah, Japan.
Look at that, Japan. Nice.
Australia, like a few groups. As I say, like a lot of these, some of these are just, you know, 2 people. But
hey, that's how it starts, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like our kind of motto at the moment is big things of small beginnings.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to promote. We want people to get together and like, because it can make such a difference. Just even having like one other person in your area that you know that you can get up to. You go, I've had a really bad day at work. The pos is everywhere. Like they're doing diversity hiring, and we've just submitted our gender pay gap report. It's driving me mad. Like I just need to talk to someone who's not completely insane about this.
Yep, I understand that.
And having that person nearby is really important, you know.
Yep, definitely having someone to talk to.
So absolutely, I have
this is an interesting fact, actually. Having a friend to talk to that just listens and for an hour is nearly as good as having a therapist to go talk to. It's almost the same as far as your mental health. Just having someone to talk to is just just as good.
Like most of like counseling is drawn from like the Catholic tradition of confession, which is sort of drawn from this idea that you just need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
There's a catharsis in being able to relieve yourself. Again, I hate for anyone who's super atheist. I hate to bring in like the God thing, but there's a phrase in there which is like, cast all your burdens upon the Lord. You know, there's a need in humans to not bottle it all up inside, to have an outlet for it, especially something that's great, because you don't want to become like the left, super bitter, and like really hateful, and then you're just as bad as they are. So you've got to have these different outlets, you know, whether or not that's physical, whether or not it's mental. Because one of the biggest challenges that I have had, for instance, to my talk, is a friend of mine who said, you know, I really struggle with all this stuff. I can't find authenticity in the company of others or in nature or anything like that. I'm super introverted. Like I never want to leave the house. What's that like? You're not getting it, mate. You are. It doesn't matter about the number of relationships you have, but it's about your relationship to things that are physical in your world. So he really loves ideas. Ideas are all abstract. That's great. He has physical copies of books that he keeps in a library, which are more important to him than, say, like an Amazon Kindle collection. He has like he makes video content, and every time he makes a video and expresses his ideas and tries to get it off his chest, then he's having this relationship with the audience that he's built as well. It's not about like his relationship to the video editing software or to YouTube or anything like that. Right. It's about him putting ideas out there and seeing what the response is, and then you know, going through the whole process of developing your ideas that way. And I would say if you're happy doing that from, you know, behind a screen, from behind, that's fine. I think he'd get more out of it if he brought together a collection of people who were thinkers in his idea, who were all reading the same thing. Like if they want to read a book by Carlyle or something like that, and then talk it through once a week, like, or something like that, then I think that would be more valuable, especially, as I say, if he gets nuked for being too spicy, then he still at least has that to fall back on, that he can talk with friends about the things that he needs to get off his chest, because otherwise I think he goes a bit mad.
True.
And similarly for other people who, someone said to me, you know, what if you're autistic? And they put it a little bit less politely than that. But I say these groups are really good vectors for developing your social skills in a safe environment where people aren't going to judge you, who may even see your autism as a benefit. You know, we have this idea of autistry as, you know, this real super hyper focus on particular issues or an interest in things. But you may also meet people who are also quite similar to yourself anyway. I think you'd be surprised how much you have in common with other people. And you can use that as a way to enrich not just your life, but the lives of people around you.
I like that.